In November 2025, the United States Supreme Court became the unlikely center of a national food aid crisis. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson issued a temporary stay on a lower court's order that demanded the immediate release of food stamp funds to millions of Americans. This legal pause didn't resolve the dispute, it only intensified the drama. At stake was the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, a lifeline for over 42 million low-income Americans. When a government shutdown halted funding, the Trump administration's decision to withhold November's benefits triggered a fierce legal battle. The Supreme Court's involvement underscored the gravity of the situation, as families across the country faced empty pantries and impossible choices. Food pantries braced for a surge in demand, while the legal fight became a symbol of a divided government. The Trump administration argued the courts were overreaching, while states and non-profits accused the administration of manufacturing a crisis. The Supreme Court's brief intervention gave all parties a moment to regroup, but for families waiting for help, every hour of delay deepened their anxiety. The court's next move would be a matter of survival for millions. The nation watched, knowing the stakes had never been higher. SNAP is the backbone of America's fight against hunger, providing food benefits to 1 in 8 Americans. When Congress failed to pass a budget by September 30th, a government shutdown cut off funding for the USDA, which oversees SNAP. On October 24th, the USDA announced it could not issue November SNAP benefits without new funding, a first in the program's 60-year history. Instantly, 42 million Americans faced the loss of $9 billion in monthly food aid just before Thanksgiving. The ripple effects hit families, grocery stores, and farmers alike. Unlike some federal programs, SNAP and WIC rely on annual appropriations, leaving them especially vulnerable. The USDA claimed it had no legal authority to make payments without congressional action. This left millions in limbo, unsure how they would feed their families. The government's failure to prevent mass hunger set the stage for a legal and humanitarian showdown. The crisis was no longer theoretical. It was real, immediate, and devastating. The nation's social safety net was suddenly in question. With no SNAP benefits in sight, a coalition of cities, unions, and non-profits sued the Trump administration, demanding the release of funds. The case landed before U.S. District Judge John McConnell Jr. in Rhode Island. Judge McConnell accused the administration of creating a crisis for political reasons and ordered emergency funds to be used for November SNAP payments. The Trump administration immediately appealed, arguing the judge had overstepped his authority. They claimed only Congress controls federal spending, and a court order to spend unappropriated funds violated the separation of powers. The administration warned this could set a dangerous precedent, allowing judges to dictate spending during any shutdown. The legal clash tested the core principles of American governance: judicial protection of citizens versus executive adherence to legislative funding. President Trump publicly stated SNAP would not be funded until the government reopened, adding political fuel to the legal fire. The fight was no longer just about budgets. It was about the limits of presidential power and the judiciary's role in a crisis. The stakes were enormous, with millions of Americans caught in the crossfire. The courtroom became a battleground for the nation's values. The outcome would shape the future of government responsibility in times of crisis. The legal and political drama was now inseparable from the human suffering it caused. The nation waited for a resolution as the clock ticked down. The Trump administration argued Judge McConnell's order was an illegal intrusion into congressional authority. They warned that using funds reserved for other nutrition programs would create new crises and administrative chaos. The coalition suing the government countered that the administration's claims were speculative, pointing to billions in available USDA reserves. They argued the real harm was immediate, millions facing hunger, while the government's refusal to act was arbitrary and capricious. The choice was stark: uphold rigid procedure or prevent mass hunger. The court had to decide which principle mattered most in a national emergency. The legal battle over SNAP benefits moved at breakneck speed, leaving states and families in confusion. After Judge McConnell's order, the Trump administration sought an emergency stay from the appeals court, while the USDA signaled it was preparing to comply. State officials scrambled to prepare for a massive last-minute distribution of funds. The administration then appealed directly to the Supreme Court, where Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson issued a temporary stay, pausing the order. This procedural move gave the appeals court time to rule, but injected new uncertainty into the crisis. The First Circuit soon denied a longer stay, triggering a countdown for the administration to act or seek further Supreme Court intervention. Meanwhile, Congress advanced a funding bill that could resolve the crisis, but its fate was uncertain. The rapid-fire legal maneuvers left everyone on edge. The fate of millions hung on the next court decision, or a last-minute political deal. The nation watched as the legal and legislative drama unfolded in real time. The stakes could not have been higher. As Washington stalled, several states refused to wait. At least 9 states, including California, New York, and Pennsylvania, issued November SNAP benefits despite the ongoing legal fight. State leaders decided protecting their citizens from hunger outweighed the risks of federal uncertainty. Acting on mixed signals from the USDA, states like Wisconsin and Kansas quickly distributed millions in food aid. This created a patchwork response. Some families received benefits, others waited in limbo. The crisis exposed the fragile federal-state partnership behind SNAP. State officials were caught between conflicting federal directives, unsure if benefits would be clawed back. The actions of these states highlighted a profound breakdown in government function. Emergency decisions were made on the fly, driven by the urgent need to feed people. The front lines of the crisis were in state agencies, not courtrooms. Beyond the legal battles, the SNAP crisis inflicted real pain on 42 million Americans. Families faced empty refrigerators and impossible choices. Parents skipped meals. Seniors chose between food and medicine. Food banks and pantries were overwhelmed by a surge in demand. The shutdown created a perfect storm. More need, less help. The crisis was best told through the lives it upended. A single mother in Ohio, a disabled veteran in Florida, families suddenly thrust into hunger. These were not statistics, but people caught in a political crossfire. The ordeal exposed the fragility of the social safety net and the urgent need for stable, reliable government assistance. Voices like Warren Buffett's calling for a strong safety net echoed louder than ever. The SNAP crisis of 2025 showed what happens when government stability breaks down. The path forward remains uncertain, but the lesson is clear. Leaders must put people before politics.